cheers to the good old days? Or is it cheers to the good old days? Why is it so difficult to let go of our old ways and just step into the new reality before us? Today, let's see how God turns religion on its head. Back in the good old days, the Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes made up Israel's leadership. Now, this council was made up of 72 members and led by the high priest. They operated from the temple headquarters in Jerusalem. The temple was the headquarters for this very elite, select governing body. They made long, drawn-out offerings to God with gold chalices and fragrant candles. They created more and more hoops to jump through. And if there was any transgression made, it was often punishable by death. For years, their role was to uphold the country's laws and maintain all the traditions passed down by the elders from one generation to the next. They were the lawmakers who instructed the people on what could and shouldn't be done. Year after year, they dictated and enforced the implementation of procedures and policies and a way of life to be adhered to by all. There was no questioning their authority. Fit in or get out. This was the rigid tradition that ruled through Israel. Now, this might be the very reason that many of you listening have rejected religion today. Its pompous, suffocating, and intimidating requirements. Well, this may surprise you, but Jesus thought so too. Jesus took all these rules and regulations and turned them on their head. He did things differently, and different was not acceptable. Jesus actually brought a new way of thinking, a new paradigm, a new approach that turned this gentleman's club upside down. His teaching and God-honoring way of life was seen as violating their man-made traditions that had taken years and generations to establish. Here he was, unraveling all of it with a blink of an eye. Upholding this institution was an expensive project that required budgets and buildings, renovation and revival, priests and pigeons, policies and people. Jesus made the whole system feel uncomfortable and agitated, which led him to being publicly accused. Jesus, why don't you do this? Jesus, you can't say that. Jesus, your followers need permission for that. To which he responds with a ground-shattering illustration that rocked the Pharisees then and still shakes our foundations today. This is what he says: no one puts new wine into old wineskins. Think about what Jesus is saying here. No one with any agricultural savvy would take newly harvested wine and put it into an old, used, weathered, moldy, overstretched wineskin. The reason for this, for the new wine would burst the wineskins, spilling the wine and wrecking the old skins. Jesus is saying, if you put new wine into old skins, things will get very messy. The old wineskins have done their time. If you keep using them, you're going to end up with a huge explosion and wine all over the floor. You see, as the new wine ferments and matures, the old bag isn't built to handle the pressure. And in the end, a violent burst, a god-awful mess, skins, wine, all over the place. Now, none of us want to see this happen. So to avoid this, Jesus says, new wine must be stored in new wineskins. Now you can feel the tension build as the Pharisees and priests begin to connect the dots. Is Jesus saying our policies and procedures that took years to develop and implement, our buildings, our customs and traditions, our religious services and corporate culture, our structures, our governance, our man-made laws all represent an old wineskin? Yes. Surely not. Is he saying that our temple, our business, our marketplace, Israel's top 500 income-generating company, and everything our very cultural existence stands for is an old wineskin? Yes. Is he really saying that if God wants to do a new work in our lives, bring new direction, a freshness, a new tastiness, a new warmth, pour out new wine, that he wants me to consider letting go of my old ways or rethink what it means to be religious? But what about everything I was taught as a child? Yep, this religion took so long to build and create. We thought and believed that this was God's way. Does the new wine really represent God's pouring, blessing, and filling while he moves in ways we've never seen before? Yes. You see, Jesus could see what this ancient ritualistic system had become. And inwardly and outwardly, this metaphor started causing tension. Jesus is basically saying that the temple and everything within it is now redundant. Jesus steps into the scene, revealing that a paradigm shift in the very fabric of life, belief, and worship is taking place. Now, cool story, Jesus, but what's this got to do with us? Well, it's nerve-wracking when you've taken years to uphold a reputation, build up a specific way of doing business, or celebrate the magnitude of your bank balance, only to have Jesus threaten it all. Jesus knows, and we know, that challenging words of change like this can get you killed around the boardroom table. He warns the council, the synagogue, and us about our natural tendency to stay as we are. But no one who drinks the old wine seems to want the new wine. The old is just fine, they say. Jesus is saying that our faith can end up like old men sitting in the corner of a staff room, reminiscing on the good old days and all the things they used to do. When I was your age, blah, blah, blah. Stuck, stubborn, fearful, and unwilling to change. We can miss what God has in store for our future. We too can find ourselves saying, the old is just fine. Where in your life is God asking you to let go of the old wineskins in order to embrace the new wine? What do we seriously need to reevaluate in order to embrace a new direction, new vision? What if God is wanting to pour out new wine over our lives? How do we avoid His blessing from being spilt, wasted, and lost? Whether we are moms and dads, principals or politicians, CEOs or carpenters, we can all agree that as we speak, a global shift seems to be occurring. The rigid old wineskins must be abandoned with courage in order to allow for new and fresh ways to be embraced and enjoyed. Yes, it may seem and feel that we find ourselves at one of the lowest points in history. Stories of death and trauma reach our ears daily. We too reminisce about the comfortable good old days and the ways we used to do business, travel, and do life as we know it. But what if the God who spoke then is speaking to us now? I want to pour out new wine. Often in the darkest hours, we sit on the precipice of God's greatest works. So start thinking personally and corporately about new structures, a new start, a new paradigm, and new ways of having a deeper relationship with God. If you need to sell assets, sell them. If you need to resign, resign. If you need to take new steps of faith, take them. There is no need to be insecure. Our approval rests in the blood-spilling event of the crucifixion that has been burst for everyone who will receive it. The temple is no more. The old wine is gone. But God is the God of new wine. Will you rethink new wineskins, new ways to walk with God, new ways to approach your work? New wine is abundantly available for new wineskins.